Hello everyone, Soluhood here, and in today's video I'm going to show you the current state of a new setup I'm working on. First of all, before even getting into the build, I want to say thanks to all the amazing people behind the profiles on PoE Ninja. As you can see here, I used their setup to gather inspiration and information for this build. So pretty much every mechanic I'm testing out came in one way or another from some of these profiles. So yeah, huge thanks for all of the insight and theory graphing floating around out there. It really helped. Now, second quick disclaimer, this build is not ready for high-end content, not even close. This video is meant as a starting point just to show where the setup is currently at, what mechanic we are already using, and why not maybe collect some feedback and some ideas to improve it later on. So the main idea was, the core concept is a custom critical discharge setup. I'll keep the explanation short, but if you have any specific question, just drop them in the comments and I'd be happy to answer. So we are using Cyclone as our main skill to trigger critical strike, and then we use Awaken custom critical to trigger the discharge of misery, which is our main source of damage. Discharge is a spell that simply consume all your charges and deal damage based on how many charges were spent. And that's pretty much the entire loop. We spin around Cyclone, trigger Discharge continuously, and wipe everything by burning through our charges. Oh, quick note before I forget it. The whole idea behind this build, this setup, is to avoid spending hundred of divines. Of course, I know that some budget is needed to make this specific setup work properly, but I've been trying really hard to keep it under 200 divine total. Right now I spent around 150 divine, and the build is actually working. Not perfectly, but decently enough. I'm still trying to make it work without needing to go higher than that. If you have any ideas on how to optimize it further while keeping the budget low, I'd love to hear them. The first challenge is managing those charges. Since this charge uses up all of them, we need a reliable way to regenerate them fast enough to be reused. We are using two Precursor Emblem rings with affixes which give us 50% chance that if we would gain a power charge, we instead gain our maximum number of power charges. We stack this effect up to 30% since we have two rings, and since we have a tons of sources giving us power charges, like power charge on critical on Cyclone and ball lighting plus purifying flame socketed in the shield, we ended up recovering two full charges very often. Now, a quick look at the passive tree. We ascend as Elementalist, which give us the full benefit of golem buffs. Tons of will use this synergy, and we do it too. We also grab Shaper of Flame, so our ignite help mitigate physical damage, because monster we ignite deals 40% physical damage conversion to fire. Then we got Master of Discord for exposure, even though we're not using the exposure in this setup because of the Mercenary we run too. I'm gonna explain that later. And Art of Destruction for AoE during mapping and Convergence for bossing, 30% more elemental damage. In the tree, then we take pretty much all the power charger node, but don't take the minimum power chargers node because we want to always discharge with the maximum amount of chargers. We're running also Chaos Inoculation, so we don't care about Chaos damage, and we use a Militant Fate Jewel to grab Inner Conviction for the extra spell damage per power charges. We also need Zert off, since we are energy shield based and need regen. There's also plenty of crit chance, armor, elemental damage and block node, but I'm not going to be too specific about it. If you need further detail about the setup itself, I'll add a PoB link in the description. Nothing too special, so pretty straightforward. And as you can see, I also include a large cluster to boost minion buff, which scale us indirectly by enhancing our golem buffs, plus a small cluster for reservation efficiency to fit all the arrows that we need. Now a quick look on the gear. Helmet, glove and boots, we want that to be armor plus energy shield base types. This way we can use the armor energy shield mastery, which give us 100% increase energy shield and armor for body armor, which is where most of our energy shield came from. For the amulet we have an Ash of Star for some more quality for our golem, which benefit a lot from quality. And for the body armor we have, as you already said, an energy shield base to synergize with the mastery. The most expensive piece is without doubt the Svalin Tower Shield. It is the main source of our high effective health pool, easily above 300k, and it is responsible for more than half the total budget. It is also let us trigger spell on block, which helps a lot with the power charge sustain, since those spells generate those charges. Very important piece. Originally I tried to use Flicker Strike of Power instead of Cyclone to trigger Discharge, which is super fun. But unfortunately in the current state we just can't sustain enough power charges to make that work consistently. Hopefully later on I'll find a way to reintroduce it. So with the weapon, what we are actually doing is setting attack speed, crit chance, and crit multiplier, and one mandatory thing, hits can be evaded, must be enabled, otherwise Cyclone won't actually always hit, and that kills the whole setup. We need hits to trigger the discharge, so that part is crucial. Okay, I think that's enough about the gear. Let's move on the gem setup and go very quickly here. For the auto setup in our helmet, you are running Discipline, Toughness, Shield and Determination. And here is also located the Frostbling that we use as movement skill. For gems in our weapon, we got the Whirling Blade for smoother movement through pack of mobs. Vitality, kept at a low level because we need mana, some amount of mana reserve for Cyclone and for the cast of Discharge. And also one of our garments when it's socked here in the weapon. Boots. This is where we use enhance support, which boosts the quality of all the linked golems, all enhanced by both the gem and the Ashes of the Star amulet. In the gloves, we have Assassin Mark plus Mark on it, which makes rare and unique mobs a lot more vulnerable to our crits. Also, we use here just a link for Molten Shell and automation. So we add a defensive layer, a supplementary defensive layer to this setup. We already discussed about the shield, but basically we use it to generate more power charges through Ball Light of Orbiting and Purifying Flame, which also give us the benefit of Consecrated Ground. The main setup is allocated in the body armor. This is where the main action happens. Cyclone, which is linked to Awaken Cast on Critical, linked to Discharge. All of this supported by Power Charge on Critical, Increased Critical Strike and Inspiration. That's the full skill loop. Before we wrap up, I forgot one last thing, the Mercenary setup. For both mapping and bossy we are using a Mercenary to boost our damage, and the aura setup here is mandatory. We need one that runs both Wrath and Zealotry, especially because we are using an Abyss Jewel in the 3 that benefit from Wrath aura. In my case I'm using a Doriani prototype setup. This Mercenary lower enemy elemental resistance, lighting resistance by a huge amount, currently 172 for enemies nearby, which is a massive boost to our damage, and also the reason why we cannot inflict exposure or curses in general, because the negative elemental resistance, the lighting elemental resistance to nearby mobs is fixed by the Mercenary. The only way to penetrate it even more is through sources which specifically said elemental penetration. If you're wondering how to target farm the right Mercenary, just in a very few words, just exile all the Mercenary that don't have the combination of strength plus intelligence and eventually the one with Wrath and Zealotry will spawn, because it's one with strength and intelligence related. Overall, the build handle map pretty well, it feels smooth and consistent, but I want to be very clear. This build is not even close to be finished. Right now we are struggling with the power charge sustain and damage, which make it feel clunky pretty often, I would say. Part of the issues come from critical strike chance and part from not having enough reliable charges generation to always hit maximum amount of power charges. This directly leads to damage drop. We often discharge at only 2-3 charges instead of the maximum amount, and that obviously reduces our DPS. Defensively, on the other hand, the build feels very solid already. We have a very high amount of block chance, which is lucky. Over 5k energy shield recharge, more than 500 energy shield regen, plus all the amount of energy shield leech from multiple sources. And also the flat energy shield gain from the Abyss Jewel. So yeah, defensively we are actually in a good spot. We are just missing that reliable power spike on the damage side. And that's it for the initial showcase. Please don't take this as a guide on how to build this from scratch, but more like a snapshot of the concept we are currently at, and what we actually still need to work on. If you have any suggestion, tips, or even criticism, I'm all ears. Drop a comment, and of course like, comment and subscribe. It helps a ton and keep me motivated. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you in the next one.